Now we're going to learn how to use the paneling tool and how to create those intricate metal structures that we see all the time. Think of this like the simplest way is like we're going to build a structure that looks like the Eiffel Tower, so that kind of pattern. When using the paneling tool, you need a surface. So every single time you're gonna use that plugin, you're gonna be applying it into a single surface, not a poly surface. If you want to apply it into a poly surface like this one right here, you will need to basically run the paneling tool several times. But when it is a single surface, then it's just one time because it works based on a single surface. I'm using for this exercise my architectural, I'm sorry, the large object feet template. And then I just created a surface. Right now this surface is a 25 by 25 feet. And then I created another complex surface that's around like the same dimensions. And then for this one I just created a curve line and then I extruded it. And then for this one I use the revolve command. And then this is just a simple sphere. Why do I have a sphere right there? Because remember, a sphere is a single surface. If you type what, even though that looks like a solid, it is a surface. So all these four are single surfaces. What is this? It's a poly surface because it has multiple surfaces on each side. Another way to understand that is that if you were to explode this, you will not explode it because you won't be able to explode it because it's a single surface, so there's nothing to explode. Same like this, same like that one, and same like the sphere. There's nothing to explode to because it's a single surface. If I were to explode this one, then I get all these single surfaces that are like combined, to create that poly surface. So I'm gonna undo that. Okay, so now for the paneling tool, as we mentioned, you're gonna find that in the top menus. So it's right here, and from here you're gonna need a surface um, as your mold, let's say, to create points, and then from the points you're gonna make those points into patterns, either as a 2D or as a 3D. So if I look at it by using the 2D option first, so you go to paneling tools, create paneling grid, and then surface domain number. So then you will select the surface. So it's asking select the surface to divide by number. And I select that surface, plus press enter when done, enter, and now it's creating a span of 10. If I want to change the span to be 20, then you can click on the U and then V. Remember, I mentioned also that for surfaces there's a different type of coordinates that is used. In the environment, we have, as you can see right here, we have X, Y, and Z. But for surfaces, we have what is called U, V, and W. So in this case, we don't see W, we only see U and V. So if we want to change the span to be 20, click on, let's say right now we're changing U, so we're going to say 20. And you can see how the spacing of the dots of the points changes, 20 and 20. And now it got a denser grid of points. Group set it to yes, because if you said no, then you hit enter. When you come back and you're trying to select the points, like the grid of points, now you have to window around the whole all the points. But if they were grouped, you can only click on one and it will select all of them. So I'm gonna undo and then leave it as the default as 10 by 10. So paneling tool, create paneling from grid, surface domain, and then I select the surface, enter, and now I'm going to put it back to 10, and I want it to have a group, yes, and then enter. So now that you have that grid, now you're going to go back. So if I click on one point, you can see how it will select all of them because they're grouped. So now I can go to paneling tool, create paneling, paneling tool, paneling from grid, panel 2D grid, and now you select, it's asking you to select the paneling points grid. So it's those points that we selected. So this is the part where I said if you didn't have them grouped, you will have to select every single point one by one. But because it's grouped, I can only click on one and it will select the whole group. Press enter when done, so enter, and then select a base surface. So this is my surface, and now I get a preview of a pattern. So when you click in here, the paneling tool offers you different panels or patterns that you can play with. So I'm going to use the diamond in this case. Let's see. I can use the hexagon. So, and then also keep also the group option set to yes, because otherwise it will put each segment of lines, it will put them separately. So that means that you have to click on every single line when you're trying to use that pattern. So make sure the group is set to yes on this one, on this step as well. And then once you're done, and hit enter. And now I will click on that group, and then I'm going to move it. I'm going to say I want to move it 30 feet. Oh no, I'm going to move it 50. Let's say 50. And now I have that pattern in there. Now from here, now I can run that the pipe command. And then I'm going to say diameter. I want it to be, since I'm in feet, I'm going to say that each pipe is going to be 3 inches. Diameter 3 inches. Enter. And now you can see how I created that that pipe in there. Now the hard part in here will be to select every single pipe, because if I do this and I group them, I'm not in addition to group the pipes, I'm also grouping the pattern, right? And we want to leave the pattern in case that we want to run a different pipe thickness. If you just want to select the surfaces or polysurfaces, so right now these are extrusions, so they can either be surfaces or polysurfaces, and I want to select only those elements and not the actual line that I generated from the paneling tool. You can go to use the filter right here, the bottom side next to like by the gumball button. Click on that, and then a this window will pop up. So window around, and because all of them are checked, then that's why it's selecting all of them. Now if I just say I want to select points, so I'm gonna right click, so points is the only one that's checked. I window around that and see how it only selects points. Now if I want only points and curves, then I check both. Now I can window around all that, and then no matter how hard I try to select the surface, it will not select it because the filter is only for points and curves. So, and if I just want surfaces, so I'm gonna say surface, and in case that there's a polysurface, I will select that one too. Now I can window around, it will only select that. So the filters that the one that we're gonna use in order to select only the pipes. Once you're done using the filter, after you selection, you can just close it, and then once you close it, then it will go back to selecting all the objects, like the default objects. So now I'm gonna turn on my filter, and I only want polysurfaces and surfaces. So I'll window around, and then now I can group. And now if I move it, I'm gonna move it minus 25 feet. Um, Now you can see how I only selected those elements when I group them, and then the curves stay right here because of my filter. Okay, so you can run that the pipe on all these type of surfaces, the 2D. Now I added those patterns in here, and you can see how it works the same way as long as you have a single surface. Now, when it comes to this the poly surface, as you can see, it only applies that surface, applies the points to one single surface. And in addition to that, because this shape is different, now it's treating it as if it was, for the points, it's treating it like if it was a whole surface in there. In cases like this, in addition to running the paneling tool several times based on each face, then what you have to do is basically I would select that surface, select the points, isolate, and then now that I isolate it, then I can ungroup the points, and then basically trim the points that are like falling outside your grid, or I'm sorry, outside your surface reference. And then now to regroup them, now you can use the filter and select only points, window around, and then I'm gonna group them. So now if I run the paneling tool, or the paneling plugin, paneling from grid to the grid, now when I select the grid of the grid of points, it's limited to whatever's falling inside that grid. You can see it right here. You may want to add like points at the on each edge just to terminate that, but basically that's what you have to do when you have situations like multiple like surfaces. Then you may have to do some fix some areas, surfaces when producing the grid or producing the pattern. And after that you can just pipe it, like in this one right here. I can just move it. It's not the greatest right now, maybe because I needed a denser pattern. So when you have a surface, remember, if you want to add more points and you want to create a denser pattern or a denser grid, then just change the number of the number on the U and V direction. So paneling, create paneling, paneling from grid. I'm sorry, create paneling grid, surface domain. So then I want in here, and then enter, and then I'm gonna say I want more a denser grid. Enter and 20. Enter. So I have more points in there, and then enter, and then now I can run the pattern. And now I can just run the piping command. Six inches, and now we have that shape right there. So it's pretty simple. Um, Now, what happens if you have a custom pattern? So you saw that there were some predefined patterns. So I'm gonna run it in here. So I'm gonna say I want to place paneling, create paneling grid. There's surface domain. So it's gonna use the same one that I used last time, 20 and 20, and it's grouped. And then enter. So I have my grid, which is my first step. And then I created this pattern with a star. So I want to use that one, and for that you will go to paneling, paneling from grid, custom 2D, and then select a paneling points grid. So that's gonna be my points. Enter, and then select base surface. So this is my surface, and then now the curves and points. So I just have curves, which is that one right there with the star. Enter, and it's gonna once you hit enter, it's gonna give you a preview of the module that's gonna be repeated, and then from there make sure the group again is set to yes, and then hit enter again, and then it will reproduce that pattern in your surface. Then you can run the pipe command on that one. So you can come up with your own pattern. So I can if I run it on this one, let's see what happens. So paneling, create paneling, paneling from grid, panel custom 2D, and then I need my points, enter, and then my surface, and then my pattern. Then the preview, and then now it's going to repeat that pattern. And then after that you can just run the pipe command on that one. Now in a case where you I'm gonna delete this. If you have a pattern that's made of curves, but as you can see in this case right now, this one it's not flat like the star, is going in all three axes on the X, Y, and Z, not just X on Y like this one right here. So this one is going on the three axes. Then for those scenarios, then this will not work. It will put a flat copy. If I run it so you can see, paneling tool, create paneling from grid, custom 2D, and then my grid points, enter, and then my base surface is that one. And now I select my pattern, which is this pattern that it's only made of lines, but it's going in three axes. Enter. It's showing me the repeat, the preview. See how it flattens the objects because it's not 2D. That doesn't mean that's curves only. 2D means that it's only in two axes. So hit enter. See how it created that repeat, by which it treated it like if it was a flat pattern. So when you have something that goes in three directions, it's more like a 3D. For that, then you will use a different process using the paneling tool. Now, if what you want is a 3D pattern, so that can be a poly surface like or an extrusion like this, or a pattern made of curves that goes in multiple, not just in two axes but in three axes like this one right here. Then you will need to use a 3D pattern. For that, the process is a little bit different because you not only need one set of grid points, or in one surface. You will need to generate a 3D by using two sets of points, or like a grid of points, which means that I need to create a copy of those points, or use another surface and create that other grid based on that new surface. So think of this like it uses the grid of points per face of object. So now this grid, it only allows you to move in two directions. By creating a copy, so I wanted to have it at 1, so I have my this grids will allow the pattern to be created in um, 3 directions. For this element right here, that's what it would do. You can once after you have that other second set of points, then you will go to paneling tool, create paneling paneling tool, paneling from grid, and then you will say custom 3D, and then select the first bounding grid. So that's my first set of points. Select press enter when done, and then select the second bounding grid, top one, enter when done, and now I need to select my pattern. So in this case will be this two bounding surfaces. So I will need to create my copy of surfaces of surface vertical, yes. Okay, so I have the two surfaces and my two sets of grid points. So paneling tool, paneling from grid, custom I panel custom 3D, and then now I can select first grid, enter second grid, enter two bounding surfaces, so this one and that one, and then now it's like, oops, I'm gonna undo, select the objects, so it will be my pattern, enter, and now it's showing me the preview of my pattern, enter, and now if I delete this surface, now I can see how, oh, group was not checked, so I'm gonna run it again so I don't have to select every single element. So paneling tool, paneling from grid, custom 3D, first bounding grid, second bounding grid, two faces or two surfaces, and then my pattern, and then grouped because there's no grouped option when you have the custom, and so that means that I will have to use the filter to select every single curve. In this case, I know I can use the filter. I only need to select curves, and then grouped, and then from here I can move it aside, and now I can run the close the filter, and now I can run the pipe command. Be careful when you run the pipe command, because depending on the pattern you may crash Rhino because of all the calculation. For us, it's maybe the pipe is too thick. So I reduced the my pipe diameter, and you can see how I create that pattern in there. But as I was saying, when running the pipe command on very complex surfaces, on very complex patterns, especially if they're 3D, I will say make sure that you save before you run that command, because you may crash it, and then if you hadn't saved, then you're gonna lose all your work. So that's when if you're trying to pipe a 3D pattern or a 3D module. Um, so now you can imagine how complicated it will be for Rhino to pipe with a 3D in a surface like this one right here, like the one that looks like an umbrella type of thing, or mushroom. So Rhino also offers you predefined 3D patterns that you can use. So for that, you can go to you would only need the two sets of points. You would not need the surfaces. So I mean, you will need a surface to generate the points, but after that, you only need the points. So for to use the standard patterns, 3D patterns that the paneling tool has, go to paneling tools, paneling from grid, and then select panel 3D grid, and then you will select the pattern first. So in this case, I'm going to select pyramid only. I said I don't want edges, I only want faces, I don't want solids because I just want faces, and then no meshes, and then it will be grouped. Then from there, select the first paneling grid point, enter when done, and then select the second paneling points, so the ones at the top, enter, and now it generates that pattern for you. If you run the command and for some reason you have let's say instead of add faces and also add solids, and so you have both, it will generate two 3D elements. So just for purpose of illustrating that, so I'm going to show you. See how there are two groups. One was made of faces, and the other one is because I had add faces, and the other one had add solids. So it's two calculations. So therefore, it will give you two objects in there. That's why I only had add faces before. Okay, so you can also generate or create your own extrusion, not only in curves but also like this one right here. So let's say that I want to use this pattern and put it on this grid right here. Well, let's do it on this one. So see, this surface was created using the copy option. Now if I use the offset surface option and I want it to be in the opposite direction, so going up, kind of like what I did at the bottom, I want the distance to be 3 inches, and I don't want it to be a solid, so solid set no, enter, enter. See how now the offset surface, I'm gonna hide this element right here because it's on my way, so hide. So you can see how offset surface now it created the second surface, but it's not overlapping with the points right here on this area right here. So when you're creating a custom 3D, you will need on a non-regular or non-flat surface, you will need to offset the surface, and then you will have to create the points based on this one of the bottom one, and then also based on the top one. So now I'm going to go to the paneling tool, create paneling grid, surface domain number, I'm sorry, not surface domain number, and I'm going to select the bottom surface, enter, yes, and now I'm going to run the same command. So I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to select the top one, the same number, enter. So now I have the two sets of points in my two surfaces. Now I'm going to run that pattern. So paneling tool, paneling from grid, custom 3D. Select the first bounding grid, so my bottom one, enter. Second bounding grid, enter, and then two bounding surfaces, bottom, top, and then now I'm going to select my pattern. So that's my object. That's a repeat that I'm going to get, enter. Now it plays that pattern. I'm going to select, so I have in this area right here, I have surfaces, points, and poly surfaces because this is a poly surface. So I'm going to use the filter, and I want to select only poly surfaces. I'm going to window around that. Make sure that you don't, maybe I'll select it on my top view, so right here. This will be a lot easier. And then from there I can group it, and now I can move it aside. Now you can see the result of my pattern in there. So if you want to run that command on the mushroom type of thing, shape, then you will have to do the same thing. Offset surface. I use the offset or the regular. Enter. So I want it to be 3 inches. So it's 0.25 of a foot. Going out. Enter. And then I'm gonna place the surface domain. The new set of points. So paneling tool, paneling from grid, custom paneling surface domain points, and I'm going to select my surface, enter, same number, 10, 10, enter. I think that one, this one, I'm going to delete the first set of points because I think this one was 20. So I'm going to run the points command again. Yeah, so that's is 10, 10. Okay, so now I have the two sets of points and my two surfaces. So ready to run that command, paneling from custom to 3D. So first grid, so it is this one, enter, second grid point, enter, and two surfaces, and then my pattern, my preview, and then enter. And now let's give it some time to Rhino to calculate that one. Now it places all those objects in there. Now if I want to see the result, so I'm going to use the filter again and only poly surfaces and move it, and there you have. Now you can also say that you can generate a pattern also that you already piped or kind of has a profile. For that, I had created a pattern right here. So what I did is I use the same profile of that um, pattern. So it's just a curve, and then I created a cross section or profile to extrude around using the sweep one tool, and that's where I got this section right here, or this poly surface, that at the end I just selected everything and kind of like joined everything together because it was coming in segments like this. So I just selected all those and then joined, so it's one poly surface. And now I'm gonna try to run that on my let's say on this one right here. So I'm gonna change the distance of that offset of that surface to be offsetted, or maybe I will run it on my circle. So offset surface, or I'm gonna offset the sphere to be 6 inches. So 6 inches. It's not a solid, so enter. So I have um, two surfaces there right now. The only way that I can see that is by uh, looking at it in my through my wireframe. I can see it right here when I'm in wireframe. So I'm gonna select create all the 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 grids, the grid of points. So paneling tool, create paneling grid, surface domain. So I'm gonna say 10 and 10 is fine. So select the first. So that's my first surface. I'm doing it in the top view. Enter, and then 10. Let's look at 10. Maybe I'll change it and make it 20. Hopefully, it runs smoothly. 20 and 20. Enter. So enter now. So that's my first one, and I'm gonna run it on the second surface or the second sphere. Enter. Okay, so I have both now. Now I'm gonna run the pattern, the 3D pattern, paneling tool, paneling from grid, custom 3D. Select the first bounding grid. So I'm gonna select my inner. I'm gonna hit save first because I know that this can. I'm gonna cancel, and then I'm gonna hit save, just to make sure that in case that Rhino crashes. And then paneling tool, paneling from grid, custom 3D, first bounding grid. So that is my inner. Enter second. And when you select the surfaces, make sure that you always select it in the same way. So if your inner surface was the one that your inner grid of points is the first one that you selected, then follow the same logic when you select the surfaces. 1, 2, inner and outer. And then my pattern is this one right here, the poly surface. Enter, and now it does the repeat, and let's see if Rhino doesn't crash. And after a few seconds, my computer finished that calculation, and now I'm gonna use the filter, poly surface only, window round, and I'm gonna group it, and then now I can see from here